Hello and welcome to the Phil and Simon Show number 44, and we're in week 3 of lockdown with COVID-19. My name is Simon Minty.
And my name is Phil Friend.
In this week's show, we have Jeff Adams-Spink, who is going to give us the latest news. We have Laura from Ewan's Guide, who normally talks about going out, so we're more likely to be talking about staying in. And finally, we have Don Biswas, who's a fantastic comedian, doing some topical stand-up. Phil.
Jeff, welcome back. Good to see you again. How are things with you?
Things are very well with me, and I hope they're well with you both as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we're both in fine fettle. So, Jeff, as is our custom, can you bring us up to speed on some of the stories that are circulating around the virus, disabled people, and so on and so forth?
Absolutely, and yet again, I'm leading off with disabled people and their access to the NHS. Since we did the podcast last week, a number of prominent disabled people, including Baroness Jane Campbell, who was on last week's show, several others, and disabled people's organisations have written and published their letter to the NHS. They say the NHS was built on the principle that we're each equal in dignity and worth. And they go on to say, we recognise that the NHS faces unprecedented pressures. We know that its staff will have to make difficult decisions about who gets treatment and who doesn't. And then they say, our chances of benefiting from treatment must not be influenced by how our lives are valued by society. They also say, where we have existing health conditions or impairments that are unrelated to our chance of benefiting from treatment, they must not play any part in decision-making regarding our equal right to access to such treatment. The fact that we might have significant levels of social care and other support needs shouldn't be taken into account. And then they go on to say, we must be fully involved in decisions about our own lives. And there's no justification for policies based on age or learning disability that do not treat each of us with equal respect as individuals. So I think that it's basically distilling the arguments that have been swirling around this issue and drawing them to the attention of the NHS and saying, look, we as disabled people are worried about this and we want some reassurance. Now, last night they got that reassurance. They got a reply from the NHS who say we should deliver care and support in a way that achieves dignity and compassion for each and every person. And they say the NHS will always seek to fully protect the rights of people with disabilities now and throughout the course of this global pandemic.
And I'm guessing that what lies behind this, and I should declare an interest there. I was one of the signatories to this under the Not Dead Yet UK group. It's about resources. If there were plentiful resources, would we be in this situation? So I suppose in one sense, it's a systemic issue. We achieve human rights, we achieve independent living, we achieve various things like that over many, many years, but the resources don't keep up. If we're all living in institutions, then that's what you resource. The minute we live in the community, the health services, the social care programs, all of those things need to be ramped up. And what seems to be happening is that we're now reaping what we sowed, which is that we didn't ramp up. We've cut and burnt so many of the resources that now, when we need them, disabled people are the people that are going to go first because the resources, it's considered their lives aren't worth as much. So it's a bit of a ramble, but is that the essence of it, Jeff?
I think that is the essence of it. You've got scarce resources. You've got perhaps 50 patients in front of you, and you've perhaps got 25 ventilators. And you've, as we said on last week's show, somebody somewhere has got to decide, is it patient A that gets the ventilator or patient B? And if it's patient A, how do you, in a clinical sense, justify not giving it to patient B over patient A? And it really is that hard, isn't it?
Can I mean, I know you didn't mean it like that, Phil, but you sort of assume that someone in a care home is perfectly resourced, and I don't think they are perfectly resourced. And also,
I hope I didn't say that, did I? That's not what I meant. Quite the reverse.
Well, you said if you're in a care home, they're resourced, but if you're outside, that's where we're really struggling. What I sort of mean by that is if you're in a care home, that's quite a scary place to be right now because it's kind of rife when it spins around. But we're not in normal times. That's the whole point, isn't it? We are in unbelievably different times. We're trying to get that curve down. So the resources normally within the NHS might be able to cope day to day. But we know they're struggling anyway. I don't mean that facetiously. But suddenly there's 5 times the pressure that it's never had. And as you say, it's about cutting up the different pieces of pie. I thought it was a great letter. I thought it was it's sort of, you want it to be stating the obvious, which it is, but it's the fact that the NHS then replied. I sent you an article, Jeff. It was from the Washington Post, and both your stories this week are sort of philosophical debates. It's utilitarianism, and the one in the Washington DC article is saying the only way you can do this is it the greatest good for the greatest number of people. So disability is irrelevant. It is how many people can we save, and that must be the best way of doing it. So it would be based on someone's medical chances. I suppose the bit that you're in the letter which is saying is, don't confuse disability with a medical illness that means we have less value.
I think that's it.
Just to go back, we heard yesterday that the Secretary of State for Health talked about ramping up ventilators, and we will eventually have something like 18 ventilators per however many people it is. In Germany, before this crisis started, they had 28. We're not even going to get near the German target when we ramp it all up, and yet we've got similar populations. So I do think this is a resource issue, and we are, many of us, the disabled people, that certainly those that signed the letter Jeff's referred to, are in the front line of this because they're the ones that are being considered first for not receiving the treatment, which is what provoked the letter in the first place. But yeah, Jeff, you've any further thoughts? Where's this leading, or where might this end up, do you think?
I think where it might end up is people perhaps reassessing priorities, and hopefully it will end up with, in a post-virus world, perhaps, with better contingency planning, because I think the lack of preparedness has been laid bare. It's not just in relation to disabled people. I think the reason that Germany is able to respond to an event like this, which has hit Germany just as hard, if not harder, than it's hitting the UK, is that they are better at contingency planning. Because I think our politicians look at budgets and they think, well, why do we want to plan for something that may not happen? I could divert that money somewhere else and get more votes. I think that's a difference in political culture. I wanted to.
Sorry, Jeff. I think you're quite right. And there's a commentator who's saying, sort of 10 years ago, he spoke to the politicians saying, "I'm going to try and get you to put money into something that may never happen." And that he knew that was going to be a really hard sell. Germany, I do love. There's this sort of beacon of great stuff, and they're testing more people. Actually, their death rates are pretty comparable, and the jury is still out to see whether they've actually got it better. But there was way much more preparedness. They sort of went for it straight away, and we've sort of dragged our heels. I think Sweden's the interesting one, which is going its own path by saying herd community, some will die, but it will be better in the long run. I mean, that's kind of a real curious one.
Well, that's where the British government started, isn't it? The British government started in that position too. Sorry, Jeff, I cut across you.
I think, I mean, I've been a regular visitor to and from Sweden. I've got plenty of friends in Sweden. The thing that you realize when you're in Sweden, it's a very big country, not full of that many people. So social distancing does sort of tend to happen by default because people are far more dispersed across the land. Of course, there are concentrations of populations in cities, but it's nothing like on the scale of London or New York.
Every time I want to 10, 20 minutes talking about this, Jeff. Go on.
Well, again, we talked last week about what do we want from a post-virus society, and my eye was caught by an editorial in the Financial Times, which really set down some very interesting thoughts. It started off by saying, the virus has injected a sense of togetherness into polarized societies. But then it goes on to say the greatest test for all countries will soon face is whether current feelings of common purpose will shape how they will shape society after the virus. And they reference the Second World War, and they say, the Second World War resulted in a new social contract between government and people, because people were being asked to make extraordinary sacrifices in the Second World War, and things that had hitherto been considered politically undoable, like free and universal health care, universal education, a comprehensive welfare state, were suddenly brought back to the table and actually given proper consideration while the Second World War was still going on, so that the post-war society could be very different from the pre-war society. And I think what the FT is basically saying is governments need to start planning for this now, because some of the old certainties, like the government shouldn't take a very big part in the economy, and it's okay to have lots of people on 0 hours contracts with very flimsy rights to employment. All of those things are now back up for grabs and back up for debate. I think that it's really a call to our political leaders, whether it's the opposition or the government. They say every society must demonstrate how it will offer restitution to those who bear the heaviest burden of national efforts. I think what they're saying is, reorganize your priorities, and things that you thought were a given, reconsider them, because the new society will need to be different.
We're bang in the middle of this, and I think that we're saying this week the numbers of deaths are going to go up, and it's going to be pretty bleak. So I hate to be this kind of, it's exciting and the new world will be something, but I can't help it. And again, this is my philosophy. It's 25 years since I studied this, but it was Jean-Jacques Rousseau who did the social contract, and the concept of that is legitimacy of the state over the individual, as in, what are we prepared to give up in terms of freedom for protection or support from the government? And I think this article and what you're saying, Jeff, is a rejigging of that. Last week, we talked about universal basic income. The idea that some good can come out of this, and we start saying we have got some of our priorities wrong. I'm not a big fan of, state control of everything, but are we saying we've got to revise this? And it's a shame that something so awful is the thing that makes this happen, but let's hope we can, we do get some benefit out of this.
No prime minister has ever wanted to talk about increasing taxation. No political party has, in my experience, has been saying, in order to pay for these services, the ones that we are now saying we need, we have to tax you to pay. And the great British public and great publics all over the world say, no, thank you very much. So yeah, that's one of the issues, isn't it? It's not just about government. It's about the rest of us agreeing that we need to pay more. You can't have stuff for nothing, and I include disabled people in that,
That conversation's happening because I think already they're saying we know we're going to have to be taxed more when we come out of this, because we've got to pay back all the debt for the furloughing, and then if we want better services, that's going to have to be taxed as well. I don't think we're going to get an NHS, for example, that's going to be always running at 50% capacity. That's a bit daft, but we must have the ability to ramp up quickly.
Yeah, that's the bit, isn't it? And Jeff, in the article that you quote from, I suppose the thing that's missing is the conversation that was going on in the war while the war was going on. I mean, I'm not hearing our politicians at the moment talking about what it's going to be like when we finish.
No, and I think that, at the moment, it's all hands on deck. And as we know, at the time of recording, our Prime Minister's in hospital. So I think that crisis management is perhaps taking precedence, and probably rightly so. People wouldn't want people to be having meetings about the future when the present needs managing. But I think there are perhaps other people who could start to lay the foundations of this, so that when the politicians emerge from the current crisis, there are some options available to them, and they can say, right, well, thanks for mapping this out. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's have a conversation about it.
Well, we're getting, as always, time is pressing us. Jeff, is there anything else you just want to mention before we bring this part of the show to a close?
Yes, very briefly. I got a press release from the MRHA about scams relating to COVID-19.
Who is MHRA, Jeff?
The MHRA is the statutory body that regulates medicines in the UK.
Okay.
And they are saying they're investigating 14 cases of fake unlicensed COVID-19 medical products. These include things like self-testing kits, miracle cures, antiviral misting sprays, and unlicensed medicines. They go on to say there are currently no medicines licensed specifically for the treatment or prevention of COVID-19. Please note this, Donald Trump. And there are no CE marked self-testing kits approved for home use. And again, there's a link that I'm going to give you to put in the show notes. The MHRA finished their sort of communique by saying, if you come across something dodgy, please report it via this link.
I looked at Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. Is this sort of snake oil stuff? Is that what we're saying?
Beware the snake oil. I think there was even a faith healer that was brought down last week for selling anti-plague or plague protection kits for £91. And it was probably just a prayer and some written information about washing your hands.
£91. Why £91? Why not 90?
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
In the early, that sort of, is that £100 with 10% off? I don't know. That's weirdly, but
that's your banker coming out, Simon.
Yeah, exactly. In the early days of this, I know even my parents sent me something which was, the virus doesn't like heat, so just drink lots of hot tea and that will melt it and that will get rid of it. There was some really dodgy old advice, and the problem with all of this is it might not do you harm, but it will give you a false sense of security, and you won't understand what you've got.
I saw the great illustrious Daily Mail covered a story from Australia that scientists are working on a treatment that deals with head lice, which will also cure COVID-19. So beware. If you start seeing, those funny old combs we used to have when we were young, pull through your hair, something strange.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? The knit nurse at school. Yeah. Well, anyway, look, Jeff, that's fantastic as always. I'm sure that's got people thinking. It certainly has with me. And but thank you so much for doing the work you do and for sharing your thoughts with us.
Have a good week, guys.
Thank you.
See you soon, Jeff. Take good care.
So today we're delighted to welcome Laura from Ewan's Guide. She's up in Scotland. The power of the internet, how wonderful it all is. But she's on the line today. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Nice to meet you both.
And yeah, great to see you. Now, obviously, I know Ewan's Guide. As I've said before, I use it and some, but it'd be really helpful to people listening to us to know a bit more about it and what it was set up for.
Yeah.
So perhaps you could tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ewan's Guide is the Disabled Access charity, which runs the ewansguide.com website. So this is a review website where disabled people, their family, friends and carers can find and share their views on accessible places to go within the UK and abroad as well. So it was set up in 2013 by Hugh MacDonald and his sister Kiki. And yeah, here we are now today. Obviously a little bit different at the moment, but the Disabled Access website is very much so still up and running.
Your role, Laura, in your full name, Laura Irwin, you're the Ambassador Network Manager, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
And Ewan's Guide is very much about going out. So are you doing something about staying in?
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, like you say, our main focus is about kind of getting people out and about and telling people about what's accessible and what's out there. And obviously now the advice is to stay indoors. So, but there's still loads of things that are happening, lots of really positive and fun and interesting things that people can be doing. So, that was part of the reason that we wanted to, I suppose, create a bit of a platform for that information for people. And also we had kind of heard from a lot of our users that people were actively trying to avoid the news and as well as social media, just because they were finding this quite anxiety provoking, just because there is, I mean, it is quite scary and quite uncertain times at the moment. So I guess we still wanted people to be able to access that information, although maybe not through the kind of traditional social media platforms or news. So we decided to create a positive space and called Ewan's Guide Forum. So this is a platform for people to share ideas, suggestions on what they're doing at home, to let people know what they're up to connect with other people. I mean, really amazing how lucky we are to be able to connect digitally just now and at this time. And so we really wanted to create a space for people to be able to do that in a positive way. So we launched Ewan's Guide Forum last week on the 26th of March. And it's a place for people to just have conversations about what they're doing, to get some advice. It's we've got kind of certain topics and different areas as well for people to share specific activities. We've had loads of kind of things gone up on the forum. Some have been virtual tours that are happening, concerts and musicals and theatre productions that you can stream online. As well as people sharing things like cooking and baking recipes when you might be on short supply because you can't get certain things from the shops. As well as
we're going to put up the links to, because there's two different websites now, isn't it? There's the .co.uk and now the .org or .com.
Yeah, we've obviously still got the ewansguide.com website and then the Ewan's Guide Forum as well. So that's the separate kind of website.
And how do you moderate these? Because I'm so pleased this has happened. The last one I remember that was really lively was BBC Ouch, and that was some years ago. So how do you moderate that? Can anyone put up anything they want? And what happens if people are putting up photos of their pet, which you might not want? How do you do this? What are the rules?
Yeah, I mean, so the rules, the kind of overarching rules is that this is a positive space. And we obviously have kind of a number of the Ewan's Guide team or moderators for the forum, and it is open to anybody to share and to discuss things on. And it's although we've kind of launched the platform, we want the users to kind of mold it and to kind of create it into a resource that's useful for them. So it's not that there's sort of strict kind of rules of, it's just a space for people to look for advice, to share advice, share ideas, share what they're up to. And we're obviously just kind of, the moderation side of things is just making sure that this is kind of within the realms of being a positive and safe space for people to do that.
I've just been looking at it, and I'm, you may know, I'm part of Activity Alliance. So we're very interested in disabled people staying as active as they possibly can. And I've just been looking at the staying physically active stream that you've got going there. And there's yoga, there's dance, there's blind sports, there's stretching. I like stretching. That sounds good. What members are doing is obviously pointing at things, and others are then joining in with the conversation. So I suppose one thing we can encourage is if anybody's got any really good ideas about staying fit and healthy and active as possible, they should stick them on your chat room site, so spread far and wide.
Exactly. And people can, if you've got a particular interest or particular hobby that maybe isn't represented in the Ewan's Guide chat, you can get in touch with us too, and we can add in new activities and new topics and things like this as well. So it's not just about kind of it's supposed to kind of cover a wide range of interests and hobbies. So not just about staying. Obviously, we want people to stay physically and kind of mentally active and well, but also just different. There's like information on kind of courses that you can do and music that you might want to learn or instruments and things like this. So it's quite want to cover a pretty wide spectrum of interest.
The two bits that just to pick up, one I saw, I think it was a blog of one of your team, which was saying about there's an extension for Chrome, Google Chrome, where you can watch Netflix and you sync, so you all watch it together at the same time, which sounds hilarious. And so people are messaging, presumably, as you're live watching. But jumping on from that, last night I discovered Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat that is being streamed on YouTube. I know, Phil, did you watch One Man, Two Governors?
I did. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
So these sort of things, if they're not already there, we should be putting them up there to say you're staying in, but you can still do stuff.
Obviously, there's kind of an abundance of information and things that are happening and that people can get to, but I guess this is just one place to host all of that information.
The site, obviously your site is run by, contributed to and so on by disabled people directly, isn't it? So it's very specific. Has there been any particular thing you've spotted going on, Laura, that kind of amused you, or you thought, wow, that's a bit different? Anything like that come across the chat room?
I mean, trying to think. I mean, I've been obviously trying a lot of the things that people have been posting. So obviously there's kind of a lot of the virtual pub quizzes. Somebody had suggested as well doing a murder mystery night, which we're going to try here. There's and one thing that I've found quite useful actually as well is people posting. I've never worked from home before this has all happened, and I'm definitely still getting used to it, and I found it quite useful, all of the information that people were posting about working from home, some advice, and quite I mean, some of it quite simple things, but if you haven't done it before, and I certainly hadn't, then actually it was really useful, from things like, just having a pretty strict routine, having a sort of or not a strict routine, but just having a bit of a routine of and an idea of what your plan for the day was, having a basket of snacks that you're allowed for that day. And what I've been recommended, one thing of using an ironing board as a standing desk as well, because I just wasn't used to sitting down quite so much. So it's just been great to kind of
I was going to ask you, Laura, are you on? I mean, I'm guessing you're an ambassador. So I'm now my clumsy, clunky question. Are you in the disability gang?
No, so I'm the Ambassador Network Manager. So kind of my role is I'm sort of the main point of contact between our ambassadors who volunteer for Ewan's Guide and Ewan's Guide. So I kind of share kind of our sort of updates and news with our ambassadors, and I mean, they're absolutely brilliant for kind of giving us some ideas and feedback on things that we should be doing and trying. And they've been a really kind of key point in the sort of forum. They had been giving us their ideas and their kind of feedback on the forum as well before it went public. So my main role is kind of going between Ewan's Guide and our group of ambassadors.
The working from home bit, Phil and I have done it for many a year, and I know one bit which I'd forgotten about, which is making a distinction between weekend and week. And it's very easy to blur when you sort of have a lifestyle. And another phrase I read, which was, you're not working from home, because that's people who do it all the time. What you're doing is you're working. You just happen to be trying it out at home. And that's quite tricky and quite different. Sorry, Phil.
No, I'm still reflecting on the ironing board as a standing desk. I just think that is so cool, because it's height adjustable, isn't it?
Yeah,
you can move it up and down. I have never thought of that. I'm going to give that a go. I'm fed up with ironing. I don't want to do ironing. I want to do work.
And if your documents are a little bit scrunched, you could just flatten them out a little bit while you're there as well.
Yes.
Although you might start a fire. I'm slightly worried about health and safety.
I love it. Well, we're kind of getting towards the end of our time with you, Laura, but I mean, obviously, this is a really interesting initiative and one that's come out of the kind of coronavirus crisis. Do you think this is something that will continue when this is all over and it's the plan, is it, to keep it going?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely our plan to keep it going. Obviously, at the heart of everything that we do is our disabled access review website, but we really think that the online forum could be a great resource for people to work alongside the review website, because it's just a great, it's a great space for people to be able to have those sort of discussions, to share the advice, to and just connect with other people who've got similar experiences and things like this. So we're really hoping that it will continue after all of this as well.
Excellent.
So website, where should they go, Laura, if they want to look up both the website for when we do get out and about, but also the forum?
So the website is ewansguide.com and the forum is ewansguide.org.uk.
I hope it takes off. I hope it gets momentum. These things can be a slow burn, but then they fly. And there is a huge gap for something like this. So I think I hope it goes well. And love to everybody at Ewan's Guide, as Phil says, a lot of perfection and love what you do.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on, guys. It's been great to speak to you.
You take good care, Laura. Lovely. Thanks for your time.
No problem.
Cheers,
Take
then.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Very excited to have Don Biswas, stand-up comedian, absolutely top funny all-round chap, occasional abnormally funny person. He's been churning out jokes the last few weeks since COVID kicked off that have made me laugh a lot. So, Don, over to you.
Hello, Phil. Hello, Simon. And hello, everyone out there. Hope all is well. My name is Don Biswas. I still live with my overbearing Indian mother. So I've been in lockdown for 37 years. Did you know that one of the first cases of COVID-19 was at Wimbledon Art School near where I live? And I was worried that I was going to get tested in. And then finally, my proud, overbearing, traditional, middle-class, neurotic, education, obsessed Indian family would have found out I went to art school. What else have I been up to? Well, today I went for my daily walk and someone outside the window just shouted, "Oi, go home." Now, I didn't know if that was racism or just safe corona advice during these times. It's hard being a comedian not actually being able to do a physical gig. The only way I could get a round of applause now is if I leave my house dressed as a paramedic.
Very good. Very good. Very topical.
Yeah, it is. Thanks, Phil. One thing I'd like to say is that the whole of society is slowing down due to the coronavirus. Even the government's response to it. No, my overall analysis is that we live in testing times now because of COVID-19. Sorry, this is the UK. I mean, non-testing times.
Yes. Yeah.
It is slowing down, though, society. Even my joke writing. Sorry, guys, I haven't written many more jokes. I had a joke about ventilators, but it's not ready yet. What can I leave you? I could leave with Boris Johnson's advice, which is make sure you avoid all a non-essential journey. So now, I only listen to Don't Stop Believing.
Very good.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Don. It's really good to have you on the show, and thank you for sparing us your time. I hope you're okay and that you enjoy the rest of your lockdown with your mother.
One of us is going to kill each other. So.
If we want to find you, Don, where do we go? YouTube, is that the best place?
Yeah, YouTube is the best place. www.donbiswascomedy.com. But YouTube, just type my name in, check out my videos.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Don.
Thanks.
Cheers, thanks very much.
That's the end of another lovely show. We are going to quickly do, though, before we go, the Listener's Corner. That's you, the listener. Lots of contact. John Corcoran, brilliant show, he says. James Lebrecq, who is one of the co-producers of Crip Camp, he started following us on Twitter.
Oh, brilliant.
Yep. Samantha Ord, I hope I pronounced that right, Samantha. She says, great listening, food for thought.
Samantha is my boss at Activity Alliance.
She said,
she's the chair.
Okay. Margie Davison, I probably haven't said that right. She asked for a transcript. So we've got a transcript and we'll get one for this show. Carrie Ann Lightly, The Traveller, we know that. Excellent new show from Phil and Simon, she said. Even Breaks, or the little clip of Baroness Jane Campbell. I love this woman. She says it like it is. And finally, Graham Findlay, united we're strong, divided we're weak. That was his comment on Jane.
Good old Graham, still out there. And I have one from Ian Hardwick, he was on my cruise when I did my cruise all those years ago. And Ian is not really connected to disability and stuff, but he does listen. And he said it was great and he enjoyed it a lot. and Gordon at Research Institute for Disabled Consumers thought it was really useful to get a different take on things. So yeah, busy.
Clearly, social media is your preferred way. You can still get us on the email, and that's philandsimon@gmail.com. One quick question for you, Phil. So for 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks, I have not worn a pair of socks.
Well, there's the big reveal right at the end of the show. Your ankles.
I did some laundry and a pair of socks in there. I thought, oh, blimey. And that was the last day I went out when I saw my family, and I wore socks. When I go out now, I've got my jogging pants on or casual, and then I put a pair of Ugg boots on, or what's it called, Crocs or Comfort. Have you worn socks?
Yeah, I wear socks all the time, actually. It's not, but I tell you what, I never wear normally, but I am wearing now is slippers. I am an old man at last. I'm wearing slippers. Sue hates them. They're really ugly, but they are very nice and warm. And I did catch a clip on Facebook of our friend Liz Carr, who owned up, she was in her dressing gown, and she owned up to the fact, I think she said, that she'd actually changed it, and the one she was now wearing was the clean one. So, I mean, people are clearly just slumming, aren't they? They're not bothering to get dressed. Why would they?
She changed clean dressing gown on.
I think she wore a dressing gown. Sorry, didn't I make that clear? Sorry, Liz. I hope I haven't misrepresented.
I wondered what she was wearing.
Yes, she was wearing in her Facebook post. She was wearing a dressing gown, but then she posted that this was a different one, or she'd washed it, or something. But it links to that point you're making that if you can't go out, why wouldn't you just dress really comfortably?
Equally, I have my rows of very smart formal shirts and my more casual shirts. I sometimes think, should I put one on for the show? But and I'm not scruffy. I'm still bathing every day, doing all the cleaning and stuff. But I don't need socks.
Mind you, when we do these podcasts, because we're videoing some of it, so I can actually see you, and it's not a pretty sight, really. I think you could make a bit of an effort for the.
My beard is growing, but I just wonder: is there anything that you are not using at all?
I'm not putting shoes on, outdoor shoes at all. But in other respects, I am doing what I do every day. I suppose the conversation you and I have had, and I know this is a big topic, is hairdressing. Mm. You know, what are we going to do about that? And you were using clippers and stuff. But there'll be millions of people, disabled or not, who are going to have to figure out some way, aren't they, of dealing with their coiffure.
We did this last show, didn't we? We talked about it.
I know, but it's really getting more and more important.
Are you? I know I'm not doing the socks. Are you still going commando?
Can you explain what that means? You know, because I'm getting on a bit. What are you inferring?
It means not wearing underwear. It's just wearing trousers, no underwear.
Thank you. I did watch a rerun of Gavin and Stacey the other day, which I must admit was just brilliant. And it's the first episode where he wakes up in a hotel wearing his partner's thong. I thought that was quite funny. But anyway, no, I think one has to maintain one's appearance, Mr. Minty. Keep up standards.
That is definitely it. Thank you as ever, listener, and obviously contact us. We love it, and you might get a shout out.
If you do, we love the social media stuff, of course we do, but our email address again is the philandsimonshow@gmail.com, and we're available on Twitter and Facebook and all the usual stuff.
Thank you very much. We will be back next week, God willing.
Thanks very much. See you soon.